9 spine-chilling true stories. One sinister choice uncovered a haunted nightmare. Lisa felt the draft as she stepped into her cozy home, the warmth of the autumn evening cutting through the cool air outside. The sounds of her neighborhood children laughing, crickets chirping, and leaves rustling had always brought her peace. But tonight, something felt off. The porch light flickered ominously, casting eerie shadows, and Lisa's heart raced as she noticed the front door ajar, swaying slightly as if inviting her inside. Had someone been watching her? She could have sworn she locked it before leaving for her shift. As she shoved the door open fully, dread began to chip away at her comfort. Inside, Danny and his little sister, Lily, were blissfully unaware, their laughter echoing from the living room. Just as she thought to dismiss her unease, Danny's eyes suddenly froze, staring wide-eyed at the window. "Mom?" he whispered, his voice barely a squeak. The way he turned his head made her stomach drop. She followed his gaze and felt a chill crawl up her spine. The next day, when shadows of doubt lingered in her mind, Lisa discovered muddy footprints leading from the dark edge of the woods to her backyard. Each print was worryingly large, almost too large for a child, and her heart raced as she recalled the neighbor's child, trembling in whispered warning about the man with no face. What kind of monster lurked in her quiet suburb? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As days turned into restless nights, whispers of the abandoned school began to weave themselves into the fabric of her thoughts. Tales of children who vanished in the darkness haunted her dreams. The air felt thicker as she ventured further into the woods, the shadows bending at odd angles, mocking her safe little life. One night, she stumbled upon an old swing set, rusted and creaking, standing alone like a twisted monument to innocence lost. Why did it feel like it was waiting for her children? That evening, everything changed. Danny went missing just as the sun dipped below the horizon, plunging everything into shadow. He slipped outside, the last thing he said echoing like a dreadful bell, her voice urging him to play. Panic consumed her as she called his name into the suffocating silence, with only flickering streetlights for company. They too seemed to weep in the growing darkness. She knocked on her neighbors' doors, their polite smiles clawing at her nerves. Each interaction felt off, like a conspiracy shrouded in friendliness. Their assurances felt like a thin veil covering something dark. The closer she looked, the more the cracks in her once trusted community revealed the sinister truth. What if the man with no face lived here among them? Now, standing at the threshold of the abandoned school, she could hear faint laughter spilling from cracked windows, the air thick with dread. Every instinct screamed at her to turn back, but a desperate fire burned within her. Could Danny be drawn into the school's darkness? Was she heading towards salvation or doom? The door creaked open slowly, shadows engulfing her as she stepped inside, leaving behind the familiar world she once knew. What awaited her within those walls? She had to know. But as the door slammed shut behind her, the question lingered like a ghost. Had she just sealed her fate? The moment the door slammed, a haunting silence enveloped Lisa. The laughter she'd heard from outside faded into an unsettling echo, swallowed by the darkness. The air inside felt different, thick, almost alive, as if the very walls were holding their breath. She took a step forward, her pulse thundering in her ears. Each creak of the old floorboards beneath her felt like a warning. Step back, don't go further. Faint slivers of moonlight trickled through the grimy windows, casting long shadows that twisted and turned. Lisa hesitated at the entrance hall, her instincts screaming for her to run. But Danny's face flashed in her mind, bright and innocent, his laughter now replaced with a gut-wrenching silence. She couldn't let him down. Not again. "Danny!" she called, her voice trembling. The sound seemed to bounce off the peeling walls, distorted and eerie. There was no answer, just the lingering stillness that pressed against her chest. With every passing second, dread clawed at her insides, urging her to flee. She pulled her phone from her pocket, the screen illuminating just enough of the room to make out a cluster of dust-covered lockers lining the sides. As she stepped deeper into the shadows, a sudden chill cascaded down her spine. It felt like icy fingers grazing her neck. She spun around, heart racing, but found only emptiness cloaked in darkness. A rustling from down the hall broke the suffocating silence and sent her heart racing anew. Summoning her courage, she edged closer, every footfall echoing like a death knell. The laughter returned, but this time, it was different. Higher pitched, skittish, sinister. It bounced off walls, taunting her resolve, pulling her deeper into the void. "Danny?" she whispered, barely able to discern her own voice. The laughter shifted, elongating into a raspy giggle that sent chills coursing through her body. It felt wrong, tainted, as if innocence had been corrupted somewhere within these walls. She pressed forward, clenching her phone like a lifeline, prowling through the remnants of what once was. Desks lay overturned, books scattered like lost souls across the floor. Then, she spotted a flicker of movement at the end of the corridor. Her breath caught. Was it Danny? Hope surged within her, though it was quickly doused by a heavy weight of foreboding. The figure barely bordered on human, shadows cloaking it in a robe of darkness. Heart pounding, she took a step back, but her foot caught on a jagged piece of wood, sending her stumbling. The laughter erupted, sharper and more menacing now. "Mommy!" it called, a mockery of her son's voice. "No," she gasped, scrambling to right herself as she scanned for a way out. The figure drew closer, emerging from the shadows, but Lisa couldn't focus on what it was. Different, blurred, shifting each glimpse, sending her mind reeling, fighting to sensationalize the horror gripping her heart. "Find me," it taunted, using a voice that twisted her insides, sending clanging alarm bells through her head. "I'm waiting for you, Mommy." Playtime isn't over the words slid into her ears like ice, freezing her thoughts. She ran, adrenaline surging through her veins as the figure lunged, whispering her name in a chilling caress. Lisa bursting into the main hall, she spotted a doorway at the end, promising an escape. With every ounce of strength, Lisa lunged for it, heart racing like a wild animal. Her hand stretched toward freedom even as the whisper followed her, the entity promising to play until she was trapped forever. Just as she reached the threshold, her foot fell into darkness. A hidden pit opened like a hungry maw beneath her, and she couldn't scream. She was falling, spiraling down into inky blackness. What awaited her below? Would she find Danny? Or was this the end of their story? The emptiness swallowed her, and for the first time, she felt a sliver of hopelessness. But then, "Mommy?" A familiar voice echoed through the dark as she landed hard, breath knocked from her lungs. What did she just stumble into? Was it the end or a new beginning? As she lay there, the ghostly whispers wrapped around her, and she realized she might not be alone at all. Lisa panted on the cold, hard ground, her mind racing as her senses scrambled to process what just happened. Shadows flickered in the corners of her vision, and the damp chill clung to her skin like a shroud. "Mommy?" The voice was close, but echoing. Unsteady. Misplaced. "Danny?" she called out, voice barely above a whisper. It came out thicker than she intended, heavy with fear. The darkness felt alive, swirling around her like a thick fog, tightening at her throat and grasping at her limbs. Suddenly, something shifted in the shadows, moving just out of her sight. She strained to see in the oppressive dark, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. She pushed herself up slowly, navigating the uneven terrain beneath her. "Danny?" She tried again, fear slicing through her like a knife. The stillness that followed was suffocating, wrapping around her throat, choking her resolve. A soft giggle broke the silence, not Danny's. It was high-pitched, distorted. From somewhere deeper in the abyss, it reverberated, lingering like stale breath. "Come play with us, Mommy." The voice twisted like a thorn in her side, sending icy daggers into her heart. How many lost souls were trapped in here? Was this what happened to all those who entered? The laughter echoed again, taunting, beckoning her closer. She stumbled forward, hands outstretched before her to catch whatever darkness may come. The air felt charged, electrically alive with the weight of childhood dreams turned nightmares. "Danny!" Desperation clawed at her throat, yet she pressed on. The laughter morphed into whispers. Dark, conspiratorial. "Find us if you can." Lisa shivered, realizing she was alone in this abyss, save for the figures lurking just beyond her sight. She blinked, willing her eyes to adjust to the moonless night, but it was no use. It all blended into a swirling mass of inky shadows. A flicker of movement to her right made her heart leap. She darted toward it, rushing with the recklessness born from a mother's love. "Danny! I'm coming!" But as she approached, dread dripped coldly down her spine. The laughing intensified, evil joy echoing against the ancient walls. It twisted and deformed until each laugh morphed into sobs, the heart-wrenching sound of children lost. "Help us, Lisa!" She staggered back, grappling with the reality of what this place was. Whispers continued, surging and diving like a tempest. "It's so dark, we need you." Had they been calling out for her all along? She shook her head, trying to hold back the rising tide of horror. "Where are you?" I can't see you." The darkness laughed again, more menacing, reverberating around her, drowning her in despair. But through the chaos, Lisa thought she saw it, a flicker of a face, pale and hopeful, nestled within the shadows. Her heart raced. "Danny, is that you?" The figure shimmered, morphing with each heartbeat, slipping away just as she reached out. "Mommy, hurry!" It beckoned, drifting like a wisp of smoke. Panic seized her. She lunged, hands grasping desperately for the emerging figure. But as she reached out, something cold and clammy wrapped around her wrist, yanking her back into the shadows. "No!" she cried, terror exploding into every inch of her being. The shadows whispered, "You wanted to play, didn't you? There's no escape." With an anguished scream, Lisa struggled against the grip as it drew her deeper, pulling her into a swirling vortex. The laughter crescendoed, drowning her frantic cries. "Remember, find us." The shadows swallowed her whole, and in the whirlwind of noise, a final thought slipped through her mind. Was Danny even down here, or were they waiting for her to join them in this torment? And in that terrifying moment, she understood the chilling truth. They had no intention of letting her leave. What awaited her in their game? Would she find Danny, or was this the beginning of her own eternal playtime? The pull of the shadows was relentless. Lisa fought with everything she had, desperation fueling her. Each gasp felt suffocated, the cold tendrils grasping her limbs like icy fingers, pulling her toward an unseen death. She could feel herself slipping, the joy of motherhood fading into a distant memory as the laughter swirled around her, hardening into something grotesque and sinister. "Please, let me go!" Her voice cracked, filled with an urgency that echoed against the dank walls. It fell into silence, replaced by an oppressive dread that smothered her. Then, through a break in the laughter, she heard the voice again. "Mommy, help us!" It was softer now, sorrowful. Not Danny. This was different. Who are you?" A moment passed, and the whispers surrounded her like a cloak. "We are lost, we are forgotten." Their pain seeped into her bones, chilling her to the core. You took something from us, didn't you? What do you mean? I didn't take anything. But even as she protested, dread prickled at the edges of her mind. Could it be? In her frantic quest to keep Danny safe, had she overlooked something vital? The ether around her shimmered, and for a flicker of a moment, she saw them faces twisted in pain. Lost children, their eyes hollow and pleading. They hovered just beyond reach, trapped in a cycle of seeking and sorrow. Find us! They cried out, their voices mingling into a haunting chorus. Lisa's heart twisted with the weight of their anguish. She could feel it, an invisible string connecting her to them. Were they seeking not only solace but vengeance? As the shadows tightened their grip, the remnants of a memory came alive. Hadn't she once heard tales of children who vanished, stories whispered among parents in hushed tones? It all came rushing back, each word saturated with foreboding. Just as she registered the weight of their accusation, she stumbled against something solid. A wall? The sensation jolted her, snapping her mind back into focus. She pressed against it, clawing for purchase. Maybe there was a way out, a crack in the darkness. Then it happened. A sound, loud and sudden, a wailing cry, not from the shadows, but from somewhere deeper. The lament of more lost souls, swallowed whole by despair. It pierced through her and resonated in her chest, filling her with even more terror. Find us, find them. The voices urged, rising to a fever pitch. Danny! She screamed again, her voice raw. But this time, her heart was heavy with the realization. If she found him, would he too be one of the lost? Her resolve wavered as dark possibilities drenched her thoughts. And then she saw it, a faint glimmer of light flickering in the distance. Hope ignited within her, but it was met with a chorus of shrill, furious laughter. No! Don't leave us! They shrieked, their voices twisted with betrayal. Please. Lisa stepped toward the light, longing clawing at her insides. But shadows surged, swirling around her, blocking her escape. The laughter crescendoed, each laugh like shards of glass digging deeper into her mind. She was trapped between the light that could lead to salvation and the darkness that sought to consume her. She hesitated. Suddenly, the shadows began to pull away, revealing a narrow path to the light. Choose us! They cried, and in that moment, clarity struck. What was freedom worth if it meant abandoning the lost? Could she save them all? Lisa's heart raced with a chilling dilemma. The whispers echoed again. Find us, Mommy. Stepping forward, she took a deep breath. I will help you, she shouted, feeling a sting of determination. But with her promise, the shadows trembled, and then surged violently. Then you will never leave. A shriek erupted from the depths of the darkness, and Lisa felt the world swirl one last time. What horrors awaited her if she followed through? Would she find a way to save Danny, or would she become yet another lost soul trapped in this nightmarish realm? Lisa's world spun, a chaotic whirlwind of light and shadow. The moment she uttered her resolve, it felt like a tether snapped in her mind. No longer just a desperate mother, she was stepping onto a stage, where the lost children awaited her every move, their expressions a blend of hope and malice. The shadows roared in response to her promise, swirling like a dark tornado, obscuring the light she sought. For a heartbeat, everything was chaos. Whispers clawed at her sanity, demanding her attention, drowning her in their sorrow. And then, just as suddenly as it began, silence fell. In that eerie hush, Lisa's heart pounded in her chest, mingling dread and anticipation. What do I do? She whispered to the emptiness. No answer came, only the hushed echoes of the lost children still hanging in the damp air. A flicker of movement caught her eye. One child emerged from the shadows. He stepped forward, his body slightly transparent, and appeared to be around Danny's age. The child's skin shimmered like a forgotten dream, and his face twisted in anguish. You have to find us, he murmured, eyes wide and desperate. Who are you? Lisa asked, her voice wavering. I'm Tommy, he replied, his voice cracking. I was here before, but no one came for me. Please, I need you to find us all. We can't rest. Lisa could feel the weight of his words embedding themselves deep inside her heart. She found herself wanting to reach out, but her hands trembled, unsure whether to connect or pull back. How? She breathed, more to herself than him. Follow the light when it flickers, but be careful. The others don't want to be found, he said, shifting nervously. As his words settled in, the shadows began to pulse, the darkness swirling closer. More! The chorus of children cried out, their voices rising in a chilling harmony. Find us! Find us! With each repetition, Lisa felt her resolve hardening. What kind of mother would she be if she turned away? But what if this choice led her to ruin? The room filled with an oppressive weight, darkness creeping toward her like a predator lurking just outside sight. Tommy faded back into the gathering shadows. Hurry, he whispered, his voice barely a breath against the tide of chaos. Fueled by uncertainty yet steered by a gut-wrenching love for Danny, she stumbled towards a dimming flicker of light she could scarcely see. A feeling of urgency electrified her limbs, the glow pulsing like a heartbeat, promising clarity. However, behind her, shadows began to close in, their icy fingers grazing her skin, igniting a primal instinct within her to flee. No! Not again! She screamed as she turned, but the walls seemed to hum with malicious delight, encasing her in despair. Mommy Danny's feeble voice broke through, drawing her gaze back to the flickering light. He was somewhere out there, lost, probably frightened, and calling for her. The nightmarish temptation to abandon the children whispered in her ear, but she pressed on. Help me! She shouted, breaking through the oppressive ambience, praying for a miracle as she darted toward the light, the shadows hot on her heels. But as she reached for it, the flicker sputtered. Just when she was about to grasp its warmth, a shadow lashed out. It wasn't just darkness. It was a maelstrom of tortured souls, writhing, screaming, and pulling her back into their depths. In that moment, Lisa realized the truth: a choice had to be made. Would she prioritize rescuing her son, or would she gamble everything to save the children destined to remain in endless torment? With a split second of clarity, she shouted, I will save you all. And in that moment, chaos erupted anew as the shadows surged forward, tendrils reaching for her, clawing at her spirit. The children's cries rose, echoing through the void. As darkness swallowed her whole, Lisa braced herself for the worst. What awaits in the depths? She thought. Would salvation come at a price so high she could not bear it? The shadows closed in, threatening to erase her entirely. Yet, amidst the tumult, a new sound emerged, a deep, rumbling laughter, not of joy, but of something far more sinister. You will join us soon, Mommy. What awaited her if she descended into that black abyss? The shadows swallowed Lisa, casting her into a world where nightmares flickered like dying stars. She gasped for breath, but the air felt thick, choking her resolve. She was lost. Help us! A voice cried, trembling with desperation, the plea weaving through the darkness. It chilled her to the bone. Where are you? She managed to stammer, trying to peer into the swirls of black. But the shadows seemed alive, taunting her, drawing closer. Suddenly, faces flickered before her, pale and haunting, twisted in pain yet filled with a longing that pierced her heart. Mommy, they chanted in a dissonant tone, but none of them looked like Danny. Where's my son? Lisa shouted, the fear boiling in her stomach. You must choose, came the rumbling voice again, slightly closer now. It reverberated through the encroaching shadows. One life, or many. Make your sacrifice. Sacrifice? Lisa echoed, her mind whirling. The choice felt impossible. Every instinct screamed at her to fight for Danny, but the lost children's faces urged her to consider the weight of their suffering. Choose wisely, cried Tommy, now standing nearer. His form flickered, wavered like a candle in a storm. You can save him, but if you do we stay trapped. The echoes of the other children surged around her, their haunting whispers growing sinister. Choose! 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 A fog of dread settled, swirling like a storm around her thoughts. Which path would lead to salvation? What would happen to Danny if she turned her back on him for these lost souls? She saw their faces, innocent yet filled with anguish, begging and pained. Mommy! The shriek of Danny pierced through the crowd of children, and her heart leapt. It was real. He needed her, and the shadows trembled as if in acknowledgement. No! I want to lose you! Lisa shouted into the darkness, pushing forward, fighting against the icy fingers that clung to her. A light flickered again, brighter this time, illuminating a path just ahead. Choose us, the children pleaded, their voices harmonizing into a cacophony that echoed in her mind, a terrifying song of desperation. We need you. You can end our pain. But Danny's voice, small and petulant, kept gnawing at her heart. Mommy! Help! I'm scared. Driven by the raw love for her son, Lisa lunged towards the flickering light. But just as she reached out, the darkness surged forward, pulling her back. The hands of lost souls reached for her, grasping, clawing. Mommy! The desperation in Danny's voice faltered, replaced by a breath of cold dread. I'll find you, she cried, forcing her way past the thrumming darkness, but the shadows battled back, wrapping tighter around her, twisting her thoughts. Searing pain shot through her they didn't want to let go. We're your only hope. They shrieked in unison, their faces morphing into contorted versions of themselves, their eyes pleading, their limbs still grasping. In a moment of terrifying clarity, she saw their truth. They wouldn't let her leave. Fight them, Mommy. Danny's voice echoed, lighter now, but still laced with terror. With every ounce of strength, she ripped herself from the clutches of despair. I choose Danny, she yelled, summoning every fiber of her being to wrestle free from the suffocating shadows. But in the split second between her decision and her escape, a chilling laugh erupted all around her. You will not escape this choice. It boomed, shaking her soul. Just as she reached for the light, a darkness more sinister than she had imagined unfurled, swallowing her whole. And before her eyes snapped shut, she felt the sensation of being pulled in every direction, essence of warmth vanishing, leaving her in the gnawing void. What other horrors awaited in the abyss? Would she ever escape the clutches of despair, or had she already sealed her fate? A flickering light emerged, growing distant. As it faded away, she felt her last shred of hope slip through her fingers. And then, echoing through the silence, she heard it again, the children. You will join us soon, Mommy. Where was Danny? Would she find him in the heart of this dread? The void thickened with uncertainty, closing in around her. The darkness pressed in, heavy and suffocating, as Lisa's mind raced. She couldn't remember how long it had been since she had lunged toward the light, or if she had ever actually moved at all. Now, she floated in this void, the weight of the shadows enveloping her like a shroud. A strange numbness crept through her body, battling against the panic rising in her throat. Choose! The voices echoed, swirling around her as if carried by an unseen wind. The chant morphed into a sinister melody, each note draped in sorrow. Danny! Lisa cried. Desperation sharpened her voice. Where are you? Silence answered, a dreadful stillness that gnawed at her heart. She envisioned her son's face, the way his eyes sparkled with pure joy, the sound of his laughter brightening up her darkest days. Stupid choice, hissed an icy voice, slicing through her memories. He won't remember you here. No, she shouted, pain surging. Daddy knows me. He loves me. As if in response, an unholy laughter erupted, reverberating around her. You think he is safe? The voice sneered, dripping with malice. This is where we trap the weak, Mommy. He is the prey, and you're just another lost soul. Images blinked in and out like flickering lights. The shadows formed a distorted landscape. Danny, alone in a room filled with silence, eyes wide with confusion. Mommy? His small voice quivered, overwhelmed by the encroaching darkness. Lisa's heart trembled as she fought to breathe, so heavy with grief and dread. I'll find you, Danny. She felt the shadows shift, twisting around her, mocking her resolve. Foolish, hissed another voice, sharper, closer. You're trapped in our game. You can't choose both. One life or many. That was the deal. The overwhelming sense of despair filled her soul. Could she save Danny only to condemn these lost children? I can't leave you, she shouted into the void, clutching thin air, wishing merely for a glimmer of light. A cold touch grazed her arm, sending shivers racing down her spine. Join us. A whisper drifted close, seductive and sweet as honey. It promised hope, but tasted like ashes. Her conviction wavered. I want to choose, she screamed. Then we'll choose for you, Mommy. The walls of shadows pressed tighter, offering no escape. The faces of tortured children twisted closer, their eyes flashing with envy and despair. They wept, their pain seeping into Lisa, attempting to kindle some spark of sympathy. Mommy Tommy's face appeared, his voice breaking through. Save us! We need you. The once vivacious boy now looked terrified and frail, his image warping in the dark. The weight of his gaze, full of anguish, gripped her heart. A piercing scream clawed its way through, pulling Lisa back into her own memories. Danny! She cried, aching to hold her son, to shield him from this hell. But with every desperate plea, the shadows seemed to draw tighter, mocking her resolve. You are ours, they chorused, a sadistic lullaby that echoed in her ears. Suddenly, a burst of clarity hit her. I'll save you all, she declared, her voice steady now. But the instant the vow escaped her lips, a guttural laughter resonated from the depths of blackness. Stay with us, Mommy. We want to let you go. With renewed strength, she pushed against the shadows, her thoughts laser-focused on Danny. But each step forward felt like running through mud, and the shadows clawed at her ankles, pulling her down. As she wrestled against the malevolence, one final image broke through. Danny crying, his little hands reaching for her, eyes full of fear and pleading desperation. Mommy! I need you. In that moment, Lisa realized she had to decide. Did love mean her son would be safe, or would it forever entrust her to darkness? The shadows pulsed, furious and relentless. Outside, a distant howl could be heard, like the wind lamenting the lost. Lisa fought with everything inside her, clawing and pushing, and just as she felt a grain of hope spark within her chest, the laughter rang again, drowning out her thoughts. Choose or lose them both. What fate awaited beneath the weight of such a choice? Would she remain trapped in the shadows forever, or was salvation still within reach? The darkness thickened, almost alive, pulsating around Lisa like a living entity. She could feel it breathing, each exhale pushing against her skin, every inhale pulling her spirit deeper into the abyss. The shadows twisted and coiled, wrapping tighter around her, as she fought to move, each step a battle against the increasing weight of despair. Choose, the voices chimed, a cacophony of tormenting whispers. It was as if the gloom itself mocked her, every syllable an echo of hopelessness. She clutched her temples, desperate to silence them, desperate to think clearly. Let me go, she shouted, although somewhere in her heart, she knew that no matter how loud she screamed, she was still trapped in this nightmare. Images of Danny flashed in her mind, a lighthouse in her stormy thoughts. His tiny hands reaching up, desperately grasping for her in those fleeting memories. But those moments flickered like dying embers. The specters of lost children hovered close, pushing forward with twisted smiles, their shadows more pronounced, their faces blurred in anguished expressions. "We know the truth, Mommy," a voice hissed with sickening glee. "He doesn't remember you. He never will. You're just a distraction." Lisa felt the walls closing in. Doubt poured over her like cold rain. Were these shadows right? Had she failed her son already? "Shut up!" she roared, flinging her arms, but the shadows of the children surrounded her, making her a part of their torment. She saw their eyes dark, hollow pits filled with sorrow. "Save us!" Each child's voice sliced through her, sharp and unyielding. "Mommy, save us!" She staggered backward, nearly losing her footing. If she made a choice, who would it be for? Her son or these lost souls? The gravity of such a decision bore down on her like a boulder, the weight almost suffocating. "No, please, I can't," she wailed, still feeling Danny at the back of her mind. His sweet voice repeating over and over, "Mommy, I need you." The shadows pulsed, a grotesque heartbeat mimicking her escalating panic. "Then make a choice," they shrieked, laughter echoing in unnerving harmonies. Suddenly, a flicker of light drew her attention, a soft glow that barely pierced the thick murk. It beckoned her. "Danny!" she cried, heart racing. The shadows recoiled momentarily, their grip slackening, but only slightly. She could see what appeared to be a door, barely ajar, light spilling through the crack. Yet the laughter intensified, bubbling up like boiling water, threatening to drown her thoughts. "You cannot escape, Mommy. We will drag you back." Lisa dove towards the light, desperate, frantic. With every ounce of strength, she rushed forward, but the shadows whispered promises of power, pulling her back with icy fingers. "Join us. Strengthen us. You could have it all." The voices lured, seductive tones slithering around her. The warmth of the light seeped into her consciousness, but the shadows were relentless, grasping at her limbs, yanking her down. "Mommy!" Danny's voice broke through again, more forceful, clearer. "Mommy, don't leave me." She hesitated for a heartbeat, torn between the promises of escape and the cries of her son. The darkness was surging onward, relentless as a tide. She could feel the moisture in her eyes, the swell of emotion as she fought to break free. "Do not choose fear," echoed a voice amongst the whispers, deep and resonant. A scream erupted from her throat. "I choose love." With a surge of energy, Lisa lunged for the light, heart pounding in her chest. But the moment felt like an eternity. Would she reach her son before the shadows pulled her back? Would she make it beyond that threshold, or would she be consumed by the darkness forever? As she reached for the door, a vile laugh erupted behind her. You shouldn't have said that. What came next was a blinding flash, illuminating the darkness, revealing unthinkable horrors lurking at the edges. But then it all faded, the light flickering, leaving her once more with an impossible decision. Could love truly prevail against the immortal weight of despair? Or was she merely further ensnared in the hunger of the shadows? The light flashed, blinding and warm, but it didn't last. As quickly as it came, it flickered out, leaving Lisa standing at the threshold of the door, her heart pounding like a war drum in her chest. The oppressive dark surged again, a tidal wave crashing around her, drowning the fragile warmth she just felt. "Mommy!" The cry resonated more urgently than before, each time ripping through her mind like a jagged stone. It was Danny's voice, a lifeline amidst chaos. Yet, just beyond her reach, the shadows howled, their faces a blur of torment, twisting and writhing. The shadows swirled, their fingers clawing at her, threatening to drag her back into their truth. "You chose love, but love is an illusion," they taunted, their whispers vibrating in her bones. "You're bound to us now." Hot tears streamed down her cheeks. "No," she gasped, shaking her head. She had felt the warmth of love. How could it be fake? She had always fought for Danny. But doubt seeped back in like a poison. What if she had failed him? Could she ever really save him? Panic clawed at her throat, stealing her breath. The shadows inched closer, weaving their tendrils around her legs, wrapping tighter to pull her back into the abyss. And then, in the depth of her despair, she remembered the faces of the lost children, so many lost souls begging her for help. Were they not worthy of rescue? Lisa felt the weight of their anguish pile onto her own sorrow until she couldn't breathe. I can't choose, she whimpered, each childless cry echoing in the hollow of her heart. Suddenly, an invisible force yanked her backward, dragging her. The door, the light, it was fading fast, and she might never reach it again. Danny! She screeched, fighting against the pull. I won't abandon you. Join us. The shadows cooed, and she felt hands, cold and clammy, at her back, reaching in with insatiable hunger. Embrace the darkness. You can free us, and in return, we'll free you. Free? She shouted. You aren't here to free anyone. You want to keep us trapped. The pull intensified. She could feel their breath on her neck, chilling as it brushed against her skin. Her heart raced, pounding against her ribcage. Stay with us, a different voice emerged, seductive and low. You could have the power to save them all. Not just Danny, all of them. The lure of strength dangled just out of her reach, shimmering in the shadows. Lisa felt her resolve waning, as though each syllable gripped onto her thoughts, squeezing her hope. Do it, Mommy, the voices echoed. Choose us. We'll wipe away the tears of failure. A scent wafted towards her, a sickly sweet scent that beckoned her deeper into the void. Her mind spun, drowning in a whirlpool of choices. What if? She couldn't help but wonder, could she find a way to save them all? No! She shouted against her thoughts, shaking her head fervently. I want to give in. And then, something deep inside her sparked a flicker of rebellion against the invisible chains binding her. I choose love for all of you. The shadows recoiled, stunned into silence, and for a moment, Lisa felt strength surging from her heart, a warmth spilling into her limbs. The shadows wailed in fury, sounds of twisted souls being denied their desires, and she pressed forward towards the door, desperate. But as the light flickered again, stark against the darkness, Lisa felt the ground tremble beneath her. The shadows writhed, coiling tighter in anguish. Stay! You cannot go! They screamed, drowning out Danny's lost cries. As she lunged for the door, she felt a sudden sharp pierce in her side. A cold hand, gnashing and wild, sank into her. Lisa gasped, pain surging through her body, echoing back to the darkness. She struggled against the pain, the door teasing her with moments of brilliance. Hold on, Danny, she cried out furiously. I'm coming. But in that thickness of despair, those last shreds of hope quivered, threatened to snap. Was this the moment everything slipped away? Would she reach Danny, or would the shadows drag her down forever? Something deep within screamed that she had to make a choice once more, and time was running out. The piercing darkness mingled with the echoes of sorrowful cries, each one vying for Lisa's attention. Mommy! Danny's voice, laced with desperation, cut through the chaos, igniting a powerful instinct deep within her. This was it. The moment that felt like eternity had come to a bitter head. In that instant, clarity struck like lightning. I choose love, she shouted, her heart pounding wildly as she surged toward the flickering light. The shadows recoiled in shock, twisting around her ankles, but she pressed on. The faint glow beckoned, promising hope and stirring memories of joy and laughter shared with Danny. A bond forging against all odds. Mommy, help! The pleas blended together, a symphony of lost voices entwined with her son's, urging her forward. Each sound built a staggering wall of determination that pushed her onward, drowning out the sinister whispers that scrambled to pull her back. "No! You can't have me!" With a final, desperate lunge, she dove toward the light. A blinding brilliance enveloped her, splintering the darkness like shattered glass, and in that split second, she felt a rush of warmth, an electric current humming in her veins. The shadows screamed, furious and desperate as they tried to reclaim her. But they were too late. Suddenly she broke through. Lisa stumbled into a new world, one filled with vibrant colors, the faded echoes of children's laughter resonating through sunlit fields. She shielded her eyes from the brightness, and the clarity of the moment starkly contrasted against her recent nightmare. "Mommy?" Her heart raced as she turned there. Standing a few feet away, with his hair tousled and eyes wide, was Danny. "Mommy!" he cried, joy bursting from his lips, each syllable flooding her with relief and warmth. "Danny!" She rushed forward, arms outstretched, whisking him into a tight embrace. He felt real, vibrant, alive. Tears streamed down her cheeks, pure joy blending with the remnants of fear. "I thought I had lost you. I was scared, Mommy. I couldn't find you." Danny clung to her, and in that moment, everything faded: the darkness, the shadows, the whispers. It was just them. Through the glimmering field, other children began to emerge, their faces once twisted in sorrow now glowing with tranquility. They surrounded Lisa and Danny, their ethereal forms shimmering in the sunlight. Tommy glanced at Lisa, the haunting pain in his eyes gone, replaced by a hopeful glimmer. "You chose love, thank you," he whispered, and as his silhouette flickered like magic, the rest of the children followed suit. The darkness dissolved like mist at dawn, the sinister weight lifting as they disappeared, freed at last from their torment. "Are they okay?" Danny asked, looking around, innocent worry etched on his face. Lisa processed this moment, the weight of understanding settling. "They're free now, love. They don't have to be scared anymore." She held him tighter, enveloped in the warmth of the sun, and the relief of knowing they had broken the cycle of despair. With that, she breathed in the scent of blooming flowers mixed with the crisp air, the world now vibrant with life and hope. The sinister choice had been made. It wasn't easy, but she had sacrificed fear and embraced love for both her son and the lost. "Promise me something, Mommy," Danny whispered, pulling back to meet her eyes, unwavering and earnest. "What is it, sweet pea?" she asked, noting the strength behind his gaze. "Promise we'll always choose love." She nodded, a lump in her throat. "I promise, Danny. Forever." And with that, they walked together into the warmth of a new dawn, hand in hand, ready to write a new story. But remember this: if you want more exclusive stories, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share this with your friends, because they need to know about this conclusion too. Smash that like button now to help us reach more people with unbelievable tales, and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. It's time to unite as fans. Let's do this together.